Hello everyone, and welcome to another video that no one asked for. My name is Addie, and this video is about whether or not it's okay to keep things that were given to you by an ex. As you can see, I'm surrounded by several objects, all of which were given to me by past partners, and all of which I decided to keep even after the relationships ended. Some of you might view that as weird, and you would not be alone. I know there are a lot of people out there that like to get rid of everything the second after a breakup, and that's totally valid, as objects can be little reminders of the person and the memories you shared, and that can make it more difficult to move on. But in the long term, is it okay to keep things that an ex gave you? I personally think it's fine, obviously, but I happen to be a very sentimental person, so I look at it from the viewpoint as though I'm honoring my past relationships without letting it get in the way of any new ones. Because it's not like every time I look at this pillow I'm doing this. I still love you. Ow. It's more like this. Ah yes, some good times. I hope he's doing well. If you're doing the former, yes, you should absolutely get rid of that item, or at least shove it in a box and put it in storage for a few years. But I think it's perfectly acceptable to keep items as long as the relationship wasn't traumatic and it's not impeding your ability to move on. I think the general consensus on the internet is that it's okay to keep practical items such as the bathrobe I'm wearing, or items that don't hold a lot of sentimental value, such as a puzzle. It's not okay, however, to keep more emotional or personal items such as pictures or cards. In other words, items that do hold a lot of sentimental value. The problem with a division like this is that it doesn't take into account the very fragile and reactive nature of human emotions. One could easily find a reason to be jealous over something as innocuous as a cookbook, simply because it came from a person that your significant other used to love. There was one time I was dating a guy and he came across this cookbook and asked where I got it. I lied and said that it was a present from my aunt, when in reality it was from an ex-boyfriend. I didn't lie because I personally felt weird about it. I lied because I was worried he would feel weird about it. Societally, we're told that we shouldn't have any physical reminders of our exes because it becomes awkward once we find a new partner. I definitely should have been honest about the origin of the cookbook, but the societal norm kind of got in my head and I wanted to protect his feelings. It's not a great excuse for lying, but here we are. Everyone makes mistakes. Speaking of mistakes, there is definitely a line that can be crossed when deciding what to keep and what to get rid of, and also when determining what is actually practical and what should just be gotten rid of regardless. So after one of my relationships ended, I was left with a couple pairs of his boxers. I was already in the habit of sleeping in them because they were comfortable, so I decided to keep them. In my head, it was totally practical. I mean, why would I get rid of some free boxers that are comfy and useful just because they belong to an ex and they happen to be underwear? Fast forward a bit to the future. One night, I had a new boyfriend over and he didn't have anything to sleep in, so I offered him a pair of said boxers. He was a bit confused and asked where they came from, and I was honest with him. And at that point, it kind of dawned on me that this might be considered weird and maybe even a little bit creepy. Naturally, my boyfriend was like, "What the fuck? Why do you still have these?" And I was like, "Oh shit. No, you're right, let me get rid of these immediately." But truly, I didn't think it was weird up until that moment. Now, an ex's underwear is a different story than a cookbook, and when you think about it, it's actually kind of hilarious which one I lied about. But anyway, that's why I don't really agree with the whole practical versus sentimental argument. Keeping something that you might think is practical, even if it's not something quite as questionable as underwear, can still be misconstrued as holding on to something purely because you still have feelings for an ex. If you're an ex of mine and you're watching this video, you might be thinking,
"You kept all these things when we were together?"
Yes! Yes, I did. But you're all represented here, so you can't be too mad. I would hope that my exes have kept some of the things that I gave them, regardless of having moved on to other partners. I like to sew sometimes, and I've dated a couple guys who play guitar, so I've made a few guitar straps as presents. It would make me feel really great to know that those gifts that I put a lot of time and effort into have been kept, especially because they were homemade and therefore more special. Which brings me to my next point. I actually believe it makes more sense to keep the sentimental items because those are what contain the memories that you may want to access later in life. Not that you should be constantly poring over old pictures and love notes from your exes and reminiscing, especially if you're in a new relationship. 60 years from now, when I'm in my 80s, I'm going to want to be able to look through stuff like this and reflect on my life and say, wow, look at all of these amazing things. I was really loved, and that's beautiful. It's like your own personal history book that you could either keep to yourself or share with your kids and grandkids. I personally love seeing stuff like that from my parents and grandparents. It allows me to peek into what their life was like before they had me, which is something that you don't often get to do because generally you only see your parents' life through the context of yourself. I mean, how the fuck am I supposed to throw this away? This is arguably one of the coolest and most thoughtful cards I've ever received. I think the same goes for pictures. Like, sure, you probably shouldn't have a photo album's worth of pictures of your ex, unless you were married to them and had a family, obviously. But I think it's totally acceptable to keep a few good couples photos. If I have kids, I want to be able to show them pictures of the people that shaped my life and my experiences, so they know how I got to be who I am today. I also love hearing stories about who my parents used to date because it opens up a whole new way to relate to them, and you can find out if they've had similar experiences to you. It's humanizing, and I believe it strengthens the relationship. Similarly, I believe it's nice to be able to open up to your current partner or partners about your past relationships. I think it can be helpful in understanding why your partner or partners are the way they are in the relationship you're actually in. I think we need to normalize understanding that the people we're with have had tons of lived experiences before they met us. It's normal for adults to date lots of people within their lifetime, and it's okay to hold a fondness for exes and keep important things that they gave you because you spent a good chunk of your life with them and they shaped who you are. It doesn't mean you're still in love with them, it just means you've had a life before your current partner. I think it's okay to honor that life and be able to appreciate it while still moving on and being committed to a new partner. And I think we'd all be a lot less jealous in relationships if we adopted that perspective and approached this topic with openness, honesty, and empathy for the person that your significant other used to be before they met you. The bottom line is, you should keep or get rid of things based on what feels comfortable to you and whatever boundaries you and your partner have set. Just don't hold on to your ex's underwear and you'll be fine. Thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know what you think in the comments, leave a like if you feel so inclined, and have a beautiful day.